how I feel. I've been anticipating today from yesterday, right? Was that yesterday?
Yes, it was just yesterday. Yes, and I am angry.
And I'm not gonna lie. 95, if not more, % of everything we talk about, we already know before we get to this point.
Yes.
I don't know anything.
I know. It was slightly intentional, just because I was like, I feel like I'm about to spit fire. And I need to tell my sister, but hey, we also need to record an episode.
We sure do.
So we'll do a live reaction. Or not
Alright.
a live reaction, because it's recorded. But you know what I mean.
For you guys, it's...
Yeah. Record.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
So-
Jennifer.
This is Jessica.
This is a much needed episode of the Behavioral Plan Podcast.
So, I'm calling this one the pool.
The pool.
The pool. We went to a pool yesterday. One of those like
my God.
splash pad, like
We
barely
just went
up to your
bowling.
knee.
Why did you go to the pool?
Girl, because I ran into a friend who has an oldest son, same age as my 10-year-old, goes to the same school. We've known each other from like a previous life, in a previous career situation, and like whatever powers may be brought us back together, and we're super happy about it. So we're like, we ran into each other a few days prior, and I was like, hey, I got the kids this weekend. You free? Play date?
Sure.
Blah, blah, blah. Let's keep it simple. Nothing complicated. Because I already knew about bowling, which is a different episode. And she's like, how about Sunday? We'll just meet up for a couple hours. We'll throw water balloons around and eat popsicles. Perfect.
Okay.
So I show up with kids in tow, and we start hanging out and doing this thing, and my son's friend comes up with the idea of like, let's go a few blocks over to the park where there's this wading pool, splash pad, whatever. And so I look at my friend and I'm like, okay, well, the pool is sometimes not an option.
Right.
So give me the info. She's like, super laid back, like, it's really not a thing. It's not deep. And I'm like, okay. Worst case, I gotta just like not visit with my friend and just be on top of Colin.
Right.
So we go, it's gated,
Mm.
right? It's got a fence, high enough, a gate.
Yeah.
There's like 5 kids there. They're all a very appropriate age to be there, not too small and little, right? So I don't have to worry about that.
Right.
But not too old that they're being dicks.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Perfect, right?
Oh,
Water's
okay.
freezing cold. Kids are like sensory seeking that.
All right.
Wonderful.
Sure.
Sit down.
Mm.
Visit with my friend.
Mm-hmm.
Kids are having fun.
Mm-hmm.
Playing great with everyone.
Right.
I couldn't have set this up to be more successful.
All right.
We're there for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
We're sitting there. And my 4-year-old has charmed his way into everybody's life.
Yes.
And some families start leaving, so it's now lesser numbers.
Mm-hmm.
And the vibe is, if you bring toys to the pool, they're up for grabs.
Oh, okay.
You get to leave with your stuff.
Yeah.
But, like, really, no one's going to put in the added work of, like, that's not your toy. This is Jimmy's toy.
Oh.
Right? Unless Jimmy's like, this is my toy and
Right.
don't touch it.
Okay.
But none of that was going on. My friend brings to my attention, hey, you see this guy over here, like, chewing like his jaw's about to fall off on this gum? And I look over, and like one bench over is his dad sitting there. He brought his 2 daughters, and he's chewing gum. He's chewing gum like he's playing the major leagues.
Oh.
Like he is like open mouth chomping, and I was like, "Oh, that man's looking like he needs to regulate. He's looking stressed." So I'm like, maybe, I don't know, whatever. I'm gonna speculate, right?
Sure,
Maybe you're
sure.
stressed because it's loud. Maybe you're stressed because you don't want to be there. Maybe you're stressed. Whatever the case may be, you stressed. You chewing gum. My friend pointed it out because yes, it's an excessive amount of chomping. I leave it be. Then the big ones start playing with this big round tube, right? Floaty tube.
Yes.
There's 2 of them, which his daughters brought to the pool.
Okay.
So the big kids of the crew, boys, start wrestling over it. He walks over and he's like, hey, that's my kids. Can I have it back? They immediately stop. They hand it over. I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I was calm. It was a very grown-up way of handling the situation.
Yeah.
Kids responded in kind. Walked over, gave the floaty back to his daughter, who had clearly asked for it back.
Right.
Whatever. My 6-year-old claimed the pink sparkly one.
I'm so engaged.
He was being very respectful with it, kind with it, but it very much has been like he traded for it with this girl. He found another one, asked me to blow it up, then was like, do you want this? Clearly it's broken because it starts to deflate, and like whatever. And so I had communicated, after I saw that exchange with the dad, I had communicated with him like, hey, if a little girl comes up and says, hey, that's mine, can I have it back? The polite thing to do, the respectful thing to do would be yes, and let her have her toy back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, yeah, no problem. So he goes out. I see lots of playing. I'm still talking. I see he no longer has it. Little girl now has it. Great skills, everybody.
Yeah. Great.
4-year-old is being the 4-year-old, right? And we are getting close to wrapping it up. 4-year-old finds the inner tube thing, starts playing with it, and I give everyone 10-minute warning.
Right.
My 10-year-old and his friend decide, yeah, we're done. They clean up, and they head back towards the house independently, because they can do that, apparently. But I trust my 10-year-old. He's been independent in, Minneapolis and St. Paul before.
Right.
He's got the skills.
Right.
He can do that. My 6-year-old comes over, towel, fine. 4-year-old understands now that it's a transition and is ignoring everyone within the park district. Pops, big league chewing motherfucker Pops, decides, I want my floaty back. Right now.
Oh.
The daughter didn't ask for it. Daughters are all over sitting with some friends and like chatting and whatever. He decides he wants it back, and so I got my eye on him. But my 6-year-old's asking me 1,001 questions about the transition and what we're doing next and all these things. So I'm like tending to his things while keeping an eye on my 4-year-old and this man who's now walking up to him to be like, hey, can I have it back? And I'm like, well, let's see how this plays out.
Right.
I observe the adult ask the question well far behind my 4-year-old without making sure that, like, at least
He's
facing each
aware
other, that he's aware that he's being spoken to.
Right.
4-year-old just kind of happily, like, toots across this little circular pool.
Yeah.
He walks around to the other side. Says it again. Now my 4-year-old slightly aware that this stranger, who doesn't know, which doesn't matter to my 4-year-old, but still,
Yeah.
is talking to him. And talking to him in a direct, which is not great for demand avoidance.
Right.
So he toots then away from him back across the pool, and he walks around. And then I'm like trying really hard to, like, because I can't give my 6-year-old my attention because now my full attention is going over to the 4-year-old.
Right.
I then hear this grown-ass man say to his daughter what just really seems like someone needs to learn some manners. And I was like, now the hair on my neck and my arms, it's on end, and I'm like, we're shutting this down now. So I start walking over casually towards my 4-year-old to help him out of this floaty.
You're right.
This motherfucker beelines it over to my son and says, I said I need this back. Grabs it. My 4-year-old goes to stand up, but can't because he pulls it out from underneath him instead of up and over his head. My 4-year-old falls backwards into the water, thankfully unharmed and not really knowing and processing what's happening. This man then turns around and runs into me because I was walking towards my 4-year-old. And I lock eyes with him and say, the fuck? He's 4. He then gets a smug smile on his face and continues to walk back to his spot. Now, let me tell you,
No. No.
It took every single birdie bought every flavor bean to keep me from murdering this man in the middle of this park. From leaping over children to karate chop him in the throat. To not take a knife out of somewhere. I'm sure I've got a knife somewhere on my keychain or something to pop all of his stupid ass floaties. But instead, I calmly walk over to my son. I pick him up, make sure he's okay. He's completely dysregulated. He's kind of pushing and kicking and like pushing on my throat like the I'm about to punch you stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're gonna go have popsicles. And he's like, oh, okay, diffused, right? Like my demand avoidance now is deactivated.
Right.
We're getting popsicles.
Right,
So I pick him up and then I look at my friend who's like, the fuck was that? And I noticed this other, like, because we all gasped.
Oh, absolutely.
When it happened.
Absolutely.
And when I say we all, it was me and all the other mothers who saw.
Every single one.
And so I walked back over to my stuff and it like, I had to walk then back closer towards this man. And I'm not joking. All it would have taken is a look. All it would have taken is a comment, even an audible exhale. But Jesus protected that man that day. Because he knew that anything would have tipped me over into dysregulation and then not the way to handle the situation, right? And let me tell you, I really wanted to handle the situation badly. It would have given me great, deep satisfaction to handle the situation so immaturely and so petty and so awfully. But all these kids were watching.
Yeah.
These kids were watching me and learning how to handle a situation like that by watching me.
Tossed him. He pancake flipped him off that thing.
I know. But how are kids supposed to learn how to process their anger without seeing how to process anger? Which does not involve getting irate and getting in someone's face and yelling. Because, girl, I wouldn't have been able to handle that at a 30%. If I would have started, it wouldn't have stopped, and it would have been ugly. The cops would have been called, girl. Because I don't know medium. I only know how to quickly regulate, because that's a new skill.
Sure.
And process, or, fawn freeze. I know that really well. Because, again, this is a grown white man, and if he would have been hostile in any way, I would have had a trauma response because of my background.
Yeah.
So like I had to handle it the way I could handle it. So I went over, I picked up my bag, and I went over, and then a random woman was like, girl, what was his problem? That was not okay, da-da-da, and starts going off. And so I'm like, here it is, here's the teachable moment. I'm like, I don't know, I'm so upset. I'm a mixture of feeling like I want to cry, yell, hit, all these things, but, that's just not the way to handle anger, because my 4-year-old is listening.
Yeah.
Her children were listening.
Yeah.
The random children were his children were paying attention and listening.
Absolutely.
And so I gotta be the one, and I hate that it's gotta be me, but I gotta be the one that's at least showing these children who are observing, this is how you handle it. So when you're angry, you reach out to your community, you reach out to your people, your friends, and you're like, I'm mad, and you talk about it. This is why I'm mad. This is what happened. And so that's what I did with my friend and this random ass woman. And so we did that, we talked about it, and then I made sure to take deep breaths, and then my friend was like, is everything okay? And I'm like, yeah, I feel really mad, and so I'm trying to take deep breaths, and I'm doing it in an exaggerated way so then the children around me are learning this skill, And then we get through, we finish our play date. My 4-year-old's just in a state of dysregulation for the rest of the day, and that's just the way it's going to be. I have to let some of the steam off, so I texted my friend Carly and went back and forth with her, and then texted you being like, I almost murdered someone today, but then we got to record an episode. And so I got through it, but I spent the rest of the day feeling like I needed closure.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I processed the information in my brain over and over and over and over and over again, playing out a different way I would have said something, a different way I would have physically done something. Even gone as far as like playing out some of those like I'm gonna stab you in the throat scenarios. Right? And it just wouldn't, the girl wouldn't stop. Into the night, easily into today.
Absolutely.
Easily for the rest of the week. I will obsess about this encounter. And process it over and over and over again. And I know this is familiar because I've come to learn this is part of my anxiety that I have, is that I have to obsessively go over, you know, certain events that like are just claw gripping my brain.
Right.
But at some point last night, I was like, you know what, you guys, is it okay if we do some takeout? And the boys are like, yeah, can we order Five Guys? Because that's the only thing we ever want. And I was like, that's fine. And like my 6-year-old was like, well, are you still mad about what happened today? And I'm like, I am.
Yeah.
I am still mad. I'm actually really upset. And I'm trying to think like what could help me feel better. And I'm like, sometimes food makes me feel better, like feeling nourished, like and sometimes eating something junky makes me feel better.
Right.
And, you know, just being around people who understand me and love me helps me feel better. And then just talking about it too. Right. And sometimes just recognizing that anger is a really tricky emotion that takes so long to resolve.
I have a lot to say. I will process.
And we'll follow up another time. But in the meantime, your homework assignment, listeners, how do you handle that? How do you handle that? Because the first thing I wanted to do was scream at him and be like, he's disabled. He's got a slow processing speed. He's 4. And then the more I started thinking about those things, I'm like, he's just a child.
It's not about him. It's
are
about
an
this
adult.
grown-ass adult.
You are an adult. What is
Yes.
wrong with you?
Yes.
And then I start going down the trail of, well, maybe there is something. Maybe he's got some kind of disability
this
that
is
keeps
where-
him from...
And this is what gets tricky, because I'm constantly met with, but you're too... What? Gosh. I'll have to think of the saying that's always said to me from Mr. CB.
But, like, I consider that, like, maybe there's some sort of unmet skill. And like, ultimately, that's what I said to my boys, is, like, I guess he's still got some skills that he's learning and building. But, like, I don't want it to be an excuse. I feel like every single adult or young emerging adult with autism would never treat a child like that.
No.
You can be both. You can be a dick
Yeah.
and have a disability and not be the disability is the reason why you're a dick.
Right. And, like, we all obviously know that, well, most of us know that being neurodiverse is, like, a huge umbrella of everything, right? So it could, who knows what it could be for this
I
person.
don't know. This man just deserves
the
swift kick.
Second that man would have started beelining towards my child, that would have been the hard moment
I just,
for me.
like, didn't even see it coming because he was coming from behind me.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until he passed me that I was like, whoa, dude, you're not going for my kid. And then, like, I was in a state of shock. Like, universe delivered this dumb motherfucker to me today to what? Clean house? Not my job.
When stories like that come about, where somebody feels like they can be bold and they can do things, and then you're just like, and then you're met with, like, I'm just over here fighting for basic human rights, and you just literally came up and
But shoved my kid down.
yes, absolutely.
It's like, it wasn't your hands, it was this tube, but you could have gone up and over the 3-year-old instead of down and underneath his legs. Like, swiping him off his feet. We...
And children don't even do that. Like, none of the other kids do that.
I'm with a lot of children, and I would see them maybe not understand that it's got to go up and around a body, so they like pull it forward.
Sure.
I could see them like going one way and the kid's confused and trying to go another way.
Right.
But not ever like what I saw this grown man do.
No.
And then not even to like pause and check to see if the kid like, oh dude, I'm so sorry. Like, you fell backwards. Are you okay? Even like take 5 big steps before that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Approach the kid. Hey, can I have this back? Kid's not really listening. Kid's kind of tooting around, doing his thing. Try again. It's not really working.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what your next step is?
Right. Maybe speak to the person that's
Walk to the adult
Right.
in charge of that child.
Mm.
And which is like, I could see where, like, if in a typical situation, you know, maybe we're like, who's in charge of this child? Excuse me, everyone. This one right here. I need some help to get my stuff back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But this was my 4-year-old we're talking about. He literally introduced himself to every single person
Right.
in that area.
Mm-hmm.
All of the adults knew his name,
Mm-hmm.
his age,
Mm-hmm.
and the first few bars of TNT, It's Dynamite.
Perfect.
So, like, you knew, and then would take frequent breaks to come tell me that he loves me.
Mm-hmm.
So you know that I'm connected to this child.
Right.
That you knew who you needed to come up to.
Right.
And while I acknowledge that at a glance, I'm not a very approachable person,
Not the most approachable.
and like, I will accept that. I might have looked, that I look away to make you feel intimidated if you're very easily intimidated.
Sure.
But also, like, 1 + 1 = 2.
Mm-hmm.
I need this toy. This child clearly doesn't hear me. I need some assistance. Go find the adult in charge of him.
But he clearly, based on my interpretation of the situation, he's clearly one of those people, I'm assuming around our age, older than us,
The worst.
if you were to guess. Okay. Well,
He was a
it
fully
seems like-
formed frontal brain individual,
fair.
meaning over the age of 25.
All right, but possibly have done some damage to his brain.
Clearly.
If he
Clearly.
is doing this, right? He seems like one of those people, I won't say guy, one of those people
He is a guy.
that
Capital G guy. like for all the women who are like, the fuck this man. He was 1,000% that. So paint that picture. But sure,
Fair.
you say person.
Sure. That guy. Sure. That gets, and I'm only saying this because I have been on a certain side of this type of guy, that if you're not listening to them, if you are not responding to them, if you are not cooperating with them, if you are not showing them respect, whatever the case may be.
And then the answer has to be to approach a woman.
Right.
So, like I said, a man.
Boy. A grown
No,
child boy.
I would give so many allowances to a boy. That's
Yeah,
a brain
fair,
in development.
fair.
That is a person that is being formed. A grown man is a grown man, used to excuses, to excuse his choices, his behaviors, and like, I don't want to go too far down an anti-man road, but there is a very specific category of men that fall into that category.
Absolutely.
And he was 1,000% that. Like, I mean that, like, you know that, I think it's the TikTok where the woman's like, it's like cold outside and the woman's having a hot flash. You see steam rising off of her and she's like smiling and blissful because she's like, this feels nice. Like, this cold air
Right.
feels nice.
Right.
All this steam, I think she's had like a bald head and like you could see the steam
Yeah.
rising off of her. That's what my body felt like
Absolutely.
for the rest of the day. Steam rolling off of me. And it's one of those things where, like, you know, as parents, we recognize this because we put in a lot of time and effort and energy in raising our children, and we maybe get to witness and experience 30% of what they're building,
Yeah.
right? Most of the skills that they're building, they get to practice and exercise in school, at a friend's house, over at a family member's house, right? Away from us, separate from us, because that's when they're like, okay, my people aren't here, right? If you're fortunate enough to have a parent that's like that, where they are your person, they've got your back. And now this is where I've got to practice my skill the most. You only hear about that, like, oh, your son or daughter is so polite. Your child is very thoughtful and mindful. They have they anticipate the situation so well, whatever the case may be. And you hear that from other people, and you're like, yes, you know, you feel like, all right, it's working, because let me tell you, that doesn't happen at home.
Right.
And so it was one of those moments where it's like, I like, it's almost like I don't feel like I responded the way I should have responded, right? Like, when I think about it from the point of view of child development and healthy parenting and all of that, I did do it the way I was supposed to do it. 1,000%, and I would probably do it that way again and again and again. However, the part of me that's like, you may not ever, right? You may not ever. I understand that, like, how I'm going to respond to this in an extreme way isn't going to teach you, isn't going to, you know, prevent you from doing this again.
Right.
But that's not the point in that moment. No. The point is, I am a tigress whom you have just threatened my child.
Right.
You shamed him. It wasn't even that you had an unreasonable expectation, which you did.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't even that. You made a choice with the intent to harm a child. My child. My child, who may not have a formal diagnosis but has shit going on.
Right.
And all of those layers, I think the thing that I can't get over the most is, like, here is my opportunity to take a bat to someone's face. And I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Even a verbal bat.
Right.
Right?
But even, like...
I feel like a real, like, because, like, you've heard me. You have heard me many times when you have told me stories, and I'm like, I wish a motherfucker would. I wish someone would do that to me, because I would all locked and loaded with all my options, right? And then it finally did happen, and I took a high road.
Right.
Lame.
It's so hard, because, like, there are some of those situations that present themselves, and you're like, is this the time? Is this the opportunity?
Yes, right. Is this,
like, you do pause.
It felt like, you know, those, like, moments in a movie where it's, like, slow-mo and a crash is about to happen. It's, like, 2 seconds long, but, like, you experience it for 7 minutes,
right,
you know,
right.
all
you
the ins and outs.
Flash.
That's exactly what it felt like. Like, me being in jail for a long-ass time flashed before my eyes before making the next choice I had to make.
Right, but not to, like, rephrase what you were saying, but that fine line of, is it too extreme of a reaction that puts whatever the bucket is, whatever his knowledge is of the situation, right? Does it then put a female into said bucket that he already, whatever he believes in, right? If by chance he knew that your youngest was whatever, not neurotypical, is he then placing that reactive parent into a bucket because they're trying to whatever? Or is it that fine line of fuck around and find out, but also here I am trying to advocate and make sure there's a space here for all of us to be here. This is a family public space.
Right.
You shouldn't have to go into a public space. Like, you shouldn't go into a public space in which you're not welcome. Everyone should be welcome.
Yep.
B, you should never have to be like, I wonder if someone's going to lay hands on my child
I
at
shouldn't
this space.
have to worry about
shouldn't
that.
have to.
And it's so funny because when we walk into spaces like that, I'm like, okay, where are the, like, where
Where
is
the
he gonna
exits, where
elope?
the-
Where, you know, how overpopulated have I done stuff? You know, you do your
That
your,
kid looks a little like maybe we should.
Sure. And like, okay, I see there's one toddler, so I have to make sure my kids aren't gonna like knock this toddler over.
Yes.
How slippery is it? Like, there's a long ass, and double the list, right? When you have children that are neurodiverse and have some, you know, may need more adaptability or flexibility in a public space. And the last thing I should have to worry about, absolutely, is what another adult may or may not do to my child.
Yep.
And like, we're women. We're already scanning the area for threats.
Predators.
Yep. That's already there. Like, we're not aware. We're not on our phone checked out. Right? We are watching our children. But like, just absolutely, like, speechless in many ways. Speechless from the experience. And like, and I know, like, that random woman, she lives in the neighborhood. She's gonna go back to that pool and she's gonna be like, not this motherfucker. Right? And my friend, like, has already laid some claims to be like, I see that dude again. I'm gonna tell everyone in the neighborhood. Like, word spreads, right? And like, the thing is the other adults were watching too, and they knew I handled that with grace and more respect than he deserved.
Right.
And even, I mean, like, you know, my mouth be mouthin'. And so, like, of course, right in front of everyone, I had to say immediately, the fuck, dude. He's 4.
I mean, that's better than a lot of things that could have been said.
I mean, like I said, my mouth just sometimes, it just came out, and then my brain was like, skirt. Pause before you continue the rest of that thought process. Go check on your kid. And, you know, then a part of me, if I wasn't so well medicated for my anxiety, do you think I'd be able to do anything like that again with my child? I would be so worried. I'd be so anxious. I'd then start micro-parenting my child. And that is opposite of what you should be doing.
Completely opposite.
Right? These are their opportunities to learn socially and to have fun, and also to just be joyful children.
Right.
Don't bring your big ass floaties to a small ass splash pad.
It's a splash pad.
It's like, it's ankle deep in there, my man. Like, what are you doing bringing these things? And especially if you're so much of a damn child that no one else is allowed to touch your shit.
Right.
Don't bring it then to a public area. I could barely take 4 steps in there before my friend and other random people said out loud, like, hey, kind of the unspoken rule here is that if you bring something, it's shared among everyone. We watched the squirt gun we brought be passed around and shared with everyone. And we very politely at the end, even after this escapade,
Right.
you know, was like, hey, can we have that back? We're heading out. And the kid was like, yeah, no problem. Handed it over. Like, that's how you talk. And and if said child was like, hurdly-dirdly-dirt, and chose not to listen, or maybe was unable to process the request, then I'd be like, okay, let's find your grown-up. Let's see, you know. And if said grown-up couldn't be found, then I continue to interact with the child respectfully.
What's unfortunate is it sounds like this space has its own built-in community. If there's this unspoken rule and they're announcing it, and it's like it sounds like a great collaboration of families. And so it's unfortunate that all it takes is one person or one event or one something to infect that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I'm glad we got a solid hour in of fun play before this douchebag bagged all over the place, but I just...
So now when it comes to the fun topic of processing speed,
Man.
at which point do you think...
Oh, it was after he fell over, and I went over and was like, hey, are you okay? Like, I think at that point, he was attempting to put 2 and 2 together.
Fair.
Right? Like, oh, I don't understand. Like, suddenly I'm on my back, and, like, this toy was taken from me, and, like, I don't understand, right?
Right.
And because now a new set of processing starts.
Right.
You know, the first round can't be completed because now we're dysregulated. we're using our downstairs brain. We have now a whole new set of processing of a situation that happened, and now mom is kind of coming in and being like, we got to do this transition now.
Yeah.
You know, and then my heart rate is through this guy and into outer space. Like, I am not a calm, regulated individual at that point, so he can sniff all that out.
He can sniff it, because energy, like your kids know.
Your kids know.
Your kids know.
They know. The second you're like, right, with your breath, they're like, oh, fuck, she's mad. They know. They know your tells. They've been watching you since they were born. They know your body language, you know? They may not be able to comprehend it, or the way they're comprehending it is maybe not making full connections.
Right.
Or the appropriate connections. But they still, like, a lot of that is primal. It's primal instincts of survival. And so, like, if the person that you depend on to survive is suddenly now, like, maybe frustrated with you, like, it's just, blood in the water, right? You sense it. Even if you can't articulate it or, you know what is the sensation within my body,
right,
you still are very aware of it.
Absolutely.
So, man. So that was my story. Now I'm a little less ragey, but I'll still obsess about all the different ways I could have handled that.
I am going to go play by play in my head.
Yeah. Right. What would I do if it, then my son, his son, like, her son, whatever. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A person with anxiety can't handle a situation like that.
No.
Not very well.
No, not well at all. I barely handled, like, way back when. I barely handled someone just going at the grocery store because they had to hurry down the aisle.
Yeah.
While the now 23-year-old was small.
Yeah.
Walking to grab his box of mac and cheese.
Yeah, right.
So excited to pick it out.
Yeah.
Here they come. This old lady speeding down the aisle. I had a can of soup in my hand, and I remember being like, I'm gonna throw this can of soup at her head. Didn't realize I said it out loud.
Ooh.
And not in my head.
Ooh.
So the second we got home,
Yeah.
I was ratted out. How was going shopping? Jen almost threw a can of soup at someone's head. I'm like, oh, said that out loud. Anyway, that's just random. Check yourself.
For real. Anyway, so. Yeah.
Now I'm just thinking about not only the grown man
I gotta go again.
and the soup lady.
Yeah.
But I'm like, my thought process right now is like, you are testing my executive function skills, my impulsivity.
I mean,
my ability
that
to...
man is the luckiest man that he got my regulated ass that day. That I am as healed of a person that I have been, because unhealed me, ooh, he probably wouldn't have even understood what I said. So much swearing and like rage coming out of my mouth, and then I like in his face, like all of it, girl, all of it. I would have been like, Crystal girl, take my children over there. I got to cover, you know, and then I would have been plagued with guilt for days and days and days, because my kids saw that, his kids saw that, you know, and now suddenly they're no longer paying attention to what they're processing of what they watched their dad did. They're sitting there processing what this like random woman did, right. And now that's the louder thing than the choice that he made. I was like, oh man, you're not. I'm sorry for your daughters.
Get someone to get a snapshot of his face, put it on a poster.
I did.
Will harm your children.
Harm your children. That was one of them that was on repeat in my brain last night. I went through my photos and I'm like, not a single one with his face. And then I asked Crystal, did you? Not a single one of his face, because I would have blown that shit up and been like, this man is an asshole. Don't trust your kids. Unsafe or whatever. I would have put him in the local paper. I would have like put up a billboard. I would have done it all. Petty. Anyway, so I'm sure I'm not alone in a situation like this. I've heard crazier stories and not as crazy stories, but I think it's a universal experience that parents of neurodivergent children who then like insist on living our lives.
Well, or even neurotypical kids.
I mean, I've heard some like
once again, if you're not responding,
Yes.
And as grown
Yes.
man.
Right. I mean, it was a sensory overload in that moment. He was probably tired. He had
Out in
eaten.
the sun.
It was cold in the water and then warm up in the air. All of it. Anyway, so yeah. Hopefully that's the only time I have to rant like that, but I'm sure it won't be.
No.
But if you've got ways that you wish I would have handled it or ways that you think it could have been handled better, I'm always open to hear other people's perspectives on things. So, but until the next episode, hang in there, go to your local pool, and don't let a motherfucker try. This was Jessica.
This is Jennifer.
And this was the Behavioral Plan Podcast.